in tax than they took out, and that's in the 7 years to 2011.
The report also says that since 1995, public services and benefits used by non-European immigrants cost around £118 billion more than the taxes they paid in.
The report was published by the University College London Centre for Research and Analysis of Migration. The Immigration Minister, James Brokenshire, says the study doesn't look at what's happened in the last 5 years.
Over the last 18 months or so, net migration from within the EU has more than doubled, with all of the pressures that brings and changes perhaps in the pattern that has been seen over a number of different years. That is why the Prime Minister is absolutely right to focus on this issue of migration from within the EU and seeking to take that challenge in respect of free movement rights and taking that to the EU, and he's been very clear on that.
Let's speak to Sir Andrew Green from the think tank Migration Watch, and also Dr. Carlos Vargas Silva from the Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford. Before we hear from both of those, we've also got Katerina Bartasova from Cardiff, who emigrated here 7 years ago. Katerina, thanks for coming on 5 Live. What do you think of today's report? What's your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts were sort of confirming what I've been thinking, living here for 7 years and meeting many other Eastern European immigrants who have been working hard and paying taxes and, you know, sometimes having more like and sometimes less like finding jobs, but always trying. So it doesn't really surprise me. The only thing that worried me that the moment the report came out, there was such a strong reaction of trying to dispute it and make it sound like it wasn't actually what it was. So
it sounds like it came as a bit of a relief to you. I mean, take us into your world. Do you have to spend quite a bit of your time almost feeling like you have to defend the reasons that you're in the UK?
I have never been approached that way that I would have to defend myself, but reading news and listening to news, I feel like to myself I need to justify the reasons why I'm here, and I never felt like that until about, 5 months ago. Mm-hmm. Everyone I've worked with or, you know, been made friends with here in UK never stressed that issue to me, that they feel like me, myself, is the problem here in the country, but always everyone is more than happy to jump on the general immigration issue and quote that as a big problem.
Katerina, you came from the Czech Republic. When did you come to the UK and why?
I came to UK in 2007. The reason why I came was I met my partner in Prague, who is from Wales. He's proud Welsh, and it would have been too difficult for him to learn Czech and move to Czech Republic. So to give it a go for us in the relationship, I moved to UK because I already could speak English, and it would have been easier for me to find a job than for him to find a job in Prague. So it wasn't really economic reason, it was more of a romantic reason.
They're the best reasons, to be fair. If and when you decide to have children, would you consider them to be Czech or British, would you say?
I would consider probably they would have to deal with the fact that they would have to learn English, Welsh and Czech, which would be a bit tricky, but if me and my partner stay together, which I hope, we are married now, then they will grow up in Wales.
And how do you feel about the current debate on immigration, Katerina, and how the government is trying to move towards restricting EU immigration?
I think they are taking it as a easy sort of bargaining tool when it comes to voters. It's been having such a bad press that anyone who is offering any sort of solution that will curb immigration will look like a hero. So rather than offering a real solution for what's happening now, what do we do with people who are not fully integrated here in UK? People look into the future and try to stop it. But I think stopping it, first of all, won't work and won't solve the issues that are already here.
Well, let's bring in Sir Andrew Green. Katerina, stay there, and also Dr. Carlos Vargas Silva. Sir Andrew, if we can come to you first on this, it seems the report is saying that the vast majority of people come to the United Kingdom to work and not to be benefit scroungers.
Well, I don't think anybody disputes that, but it's not what the report is saying. It's saying two things. It's saying that all migrants since 1995 have cost us, in round numbers, 20 to 25 million pounds a day. And that's something Migration Watch have been saying for years. Secondly, it says that as far as European migrants are concerned, they have contributed 20 billion over the last 10 years. But if you work it out, that's less than £1 a week per head of our population. And if you take just the East Europeans, it's less than 20 pence a week. So we don't necessarily agree with those figures, but they're in the right ballpark. And you have to ask whether, since migrants from mainly Eastern Europe have added 1 million to our population, is it really true to say that they have paid for the necessary extra schools, maternity units, houses and so on that they're going to need?
Dr. Carlos, I suppose that's the trouble with all forms of figures and statistics. They can be interpreted in different ways. How do you feel about them?
Well, I mean, the thing is, this report answers two different questions. One question is, what is the impact of all migrants in the UK from 1995 to 2011? And when you answer that one, you see that the impact is negative. It's positive for EA migrants, but for those from outside the European Economic Area, is negative. However, you have a second question, which is what happens with the recent migrants, those that arrived recently during the last 2001 to 2011, and that one is positive. So you can kind of pick whatever answer you want from these ones. You also have the point from the Migration Minister. This does not include the recent migration trends when the government restrictions have been in place. So has this changed since 2011? We don't know about that.
So, Andrew, there is that.
I think we're agreeing. Can I just say I think we're
Yes.
agreeing, but the point is that the contribution of European migrants, although it's positive, is very small. As I say, it's about, depends which ones you take, but it's about £1 a head for our population, or 20p if you take these Europeans. That's in the report. I mean, there's no dispute about that.
But that's the point that Sarah was making, that people are interpreting this report in different ways. I wanted to come to you on a slightly different point, if I could.
Yeah.
Do you think that, in terms of, we've heard from Katerina there, that it's impossible to take the economics and bring the perception and the cultural issues and mix those two together, because they're very different, aren't they?
Yes. Well, you were asking me about an economic report, which we can take the cultural.
On the back of what Katerina is saying, that's her testimony on this programme, so I'm also asking you about that as well.
Yes. Well, I mean, the first thing to say is that any open economy and open society like ours is going to have immigration, and it's very often valuable. And I think most people would say that East European migrants are hardworking, cheerful, very good workers. So it's not, we're not objecting to them as people, or indeed objecting to them at all. What we're saying is...
It's good that they're all cheerful, though.
Excuse me.
I mean, it's a slightly odd thing to say.
What we're saying is that if we allow immigration in total to continue as it is now, at about 250,000 a year net, we'll add 12 million to our population in the next 20 years. Now, that's twice the population of Scotland. It has real consequences. So it's all very well us saying, well, we like this immigrant, and we like this immigrant, and we like most immigrants, but we also have to take account of what it's going to do to our environment and our infrastructure and our society.
Let's bring Katerina back on this, who's been listening to the points you've been making. Katerina, is there something you'd like to say?
There's something I would like to say. I don't know whether the fact that many immigrants will continue come to this country for the next 20 years, we do not know that. Circumstances might change. And I think at the moment, saying how much money each immigrant brings per head per year per person, I don't think it's completely relevant to the actual political debate. I think for myself and from my point of view and my friends, we are getting really worried about the sort of negative aspect of this debate. And even though we say nicely, we might be hardworking and nice people, we still feel like we are less and less welcome.
Well, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we have to take account of the implications for our society of this kind of population change. The number of Europeans who are now working in this country has gone up by 1 million in the last 10 years or so. And, people in those areas where European migrants are largely going do feel the consequences of that. And I really don't think that it's right for us, any of us, to simply ignore that Equally, I don't think we should reduce it to pounds, shillings and pence. It's not that. It's a much wider issue. It concerns our environment, our infrastructure, our culture, our cohesion as a nation, all these things, which, if they were to continue, and I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying that if we don't take action to reduce them, then we are looking at a significant impact on our society, which we ought to be really conscious of.
Dr. Carlos, at what point do you think someone becomes British? When they take citizenship, when they feel this is their home, or when they've paid a certain amount of tax?
Well, that is a key question. Who counts as a migrant? We have done surveys about this, and most people think of British nationals as migrants. So probably the point at which they gain nationality, which now is about 5 or 6 years, the wait is 5 or 6 years, you can say that's the point at which they have full rights to be in the country.
Well, the technical answer to your question is that if they're born abroad, they're migrants. The subjective answer is the one that you just heard. I think most people would think that someone who come here, was working here, spoke good English, had integrated, they're as British as anybody else, and certainly their children are.
Sir Andrew, some people might say there's an elephant in the room with all of this, and that is the issue of race. Many critics of immigration may look, for example, at someone who's Irish, been here for 40 years, say they're British, and look at another person who's Pakistani and been here for 40 years and say they're an immigrant. You can see how that would happen.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I can see how it would happen, certainly. I mean, that's life, isn't it? If you go to any other foreign country, you'll find the same thing. I mean, people tend to relate more easily to someone who is the same as themselves. That seems to me a statement of the obvious. But it does mean that we have to be careful how we discuss these things in order not to exacerbate feelings of that kind.
Dr. Carlos, what's your view on that, on the issue of race here and how that gets lumped in with it?
Well, you're lumped in. Let's be clear about that. You're the only person who's mentioned it.
Yes, oh yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that you are. You've made it very clear. Go ahead, Dr. Carlos.
Well, I was just saying, I mean, this same public opinion surveys, we ask people about people from different countries, and at least in those surveys, they don't make a strong distinction based on region of origin. So we don't see it that strongly there.
Katerina, before we bring this partial debate to a close, I wanted to come back to you as well, because right at the start when we began speaking to you, you said you'd seen attitudes change in the last sort of 6 months or so. Based on the time that you've spent in the United Kingdom, are you concerned about the next 6 months or the next 6 years and how attitudes will develop to migration and immigration?
I think it's my concerns are not necessarily about migration. I think it's the whole look on European Union and the position of UK trying to leave European Union. And I think the question of immigration is fueling that quite a lot. And I think I don't think it paints the right picture. I think it's being used to sway voters, and it's been used a lot in the political spectrum. And when it comes to immigration, I am worried if there is going to be a cap on immigration. I just think that's not the right way to deal with immigration. I think it is a problem. I'm not saying it isn't, but I think there might be other ways, like communicated with the countries of origin where these people are coming from, trying to work with them more closely, and again, work with people that are already here. But yeah, there's some worries, but my biggest ones are at the moment about European Union and hoping that UK will stay in it, because that would be a great step backwards if UK left.
Thanks for talking to us on 5 Live. That's Katerina Bartasova, Sir Andrew Green from Migration Watch, and also Dr. Carlos Vargas Silva from the Migration Observatory.
Now let's look at a different aspect of immigration, because in recent weeks there's been headline after headline about the situation in Calais in France, where every day dozens of people from